We have seen the world from our own selfish point of view. We have lived as though everything depended upon us. We confess our sin and seek your forgiveness. Help us to stand proudly as Americans and face every challenge with the confidence born of your spirit and humbly touched by your love and grace. So to this end, we commit ourselves. We pray in the name of the Lord of Lords and the King of Kings, Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Now the pledge. I pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the
United States of America, to the
to the
republic,
republic for which it stands, one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Well, that wasn't.
That was a prayer.
I thought Robert, he was praying.
Yeah.
I'll now call the meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Magistrate Davis,
Present.
Elkins,
present,
Graham,
Present.
Blanton,
Here.
Constantopoulos,
Present.
and Thompson.
Here.
It appears we have a quorum. Item number 5, adoption of the agenda. I should mention that I believe everyone has received a copy of some updated bills and an updated transfer order.
Yes, Judge, could we just add those as, insert those in as, and approve them as two separate line items?
County Attorney Elkins, would that be acceptable?
I offered the finance folks and the treasurer the advice that they should prepare that as an addendum in case the court chose to approve one set but not the other. But you could certainly treat them at the same time.
We can treat them at the same time, just as an addendum.
Correct.
So perhaps the transfers item 8 and item 8A and the bills list item 9 and item 9A. Would that work, William?
Sure.
Okay.
motion to approve,
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
aye,
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, review the treasurer's report. Item number 7, consider approval of the minutes from
Hold on,
the.
Judge.
Yep. Go
I had
ahead.
some questions on the treasurer's report.
It's not an action item. Generally, we don't discuss the treasurer's report. William, should we discuss the treasurer's report?
Well, I mean, I think it'd be fair to hear his concerns and maybe we'd have answers for him.
Okay. Go ahead, Travis.
All right, just a few things, a couple of them, just some technical items, just so I can make corrections on my sheet. On the front page, the outstanding checks that's listed is a different amount than what's on the second page. I'm assuming that the second page is correct, listed by detailed item in that report, but I just wanted to clarify that.
Travis, what are those numbers?
On the front page, the very first page, outstanding checks, $65,207.93.
Right.
You go to the second page, middle of the page, both up and down and left to right, $73,904.25.
Yeah. I got you.
So I don't know if you have the treasurer in this meeting. I'll tell you what I know about this, and then you can verify it with her, or she can offer you something in writing. If you look on that first page, you'll see the $65,287.93, and then the very next line is $86,31.32. I suspect, though I don't know, if you add those two lines together, that's what that totals, but I don't know that.
Just a second, and I'll tell you. I did not do that. That does not add up.
It is not.
Move on with the rest of your concerns, Travis, and
If somebody can get back to me on that one, I'd appreciate it. Or if I need to email the treasurer, I can do that.
Fair enough.
On the next question, it'd be the very next line down, the $8,631.32 that it says no record on file. Can someone explain? I'm assuming we don't have a record on file, but can someone explain how that's a possibility?
You know, again, I think you can verify this through the treasurer, but, you know, when the previous treasurer left his post or removed, choose how you'll receive that, he did not settle his books. He was simply there one moment and gone the next. There was a lot of transactions that had to be traced down or chased down, beginning with a much larger number. As it stands today, and this report's been submitted to the DLG, so this is all out and on the table as it stands today, there still is no identified record relating to that $8,631.32. That's not to say that that it'll never be found, but it's not known exactly where those transactions are at this point.
Judge Pace, did we give the outgoing treasurer the opportunity to reconcile his books before he left?
I don't believe there was any discussion under the circumstances.
Okay, and we reached out to him to do that now that we found out we can't account for this particular $8,600?
I believe we had some discussion with the county attorney about that. That may be something that's in the works. You'll have to ask him.
I don't think that we can just not have a record for $8,600, so I think we have to do something to try to alleviate that. So I'm curious what's in the works to do that.
Yeah. And just to add light to this, because I had some conversation with Kathy Dillo, who had kind of been consulting to help get the books in order. And one thing that was, those were basically checks that were outstanding that she could not find record of in the system because the system was not being utilized properly to do the reconciliation. And so she was in the process of going through everything and finding those checks, the exact amount that was there. So that's one of the issues, because there were several issues in regards when she was helping get in the book. You know, there was deposits of almost $100 and some thousand that was in the checking accounts that were never posted in the system. And the only way that they were posted is that Shay was able to find some of those through going through the bank reconciliation. So, you know, it's fair to say that when they got in there, there was a lot of issues that they had to go through, and they're still working through. But I mean, I'm confident that they're going to find that information. And, you know, you feel free, you can reach out to any of these people as well, and they can give you the whole story as well.
Judge, I understand you're working on that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That answers that question. Next question will be on page 3 of the appropriation condition report. Tell me when you're ready.
I'm getting there. Okay, page 3, I'm there.
About 3/4 of the way down the page, there's a new account that showed up on this report, the 01-5101-1230 Home Incarceration Coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
I have some correspondence from the county attorney that was sent to us in regards to this account and the account above it, 1060. I'm curious who made the decision to transfer money into that account without taking it through the fiscal court, because there's no money appropriated in that account and it's not in our current budget. However, I understand that we can create that line item or make it active again, however you want to put it, by doing a transfer, but we've not done a transfer to that account, and there is a negative balance in it now of $2591.98. And if I understand correctly, this report's already been sent to DLG for our quarterly report, and there's no way that that's going to fly under an audit. Am I correct?
County Attorney Elkins, that was
Yes.
done under your advice.
Sure.
Is that right?
Yeah, so I could take just a second and pull the letter up that I provided to everybody. I think that it gave
I do
the
have it.
explanation as I understood it at the time. And basically, the reason that you see a negative balance there is because you're correct, Master Thompson, there has been no transfer, but there were payments applied against that particular account because within the accounting system, it had been flagged not to print or report. And in trying to balance reconcile this accounting ledger to provide it to DLG by March 31st or by April 20th, when Kathy Dillow, after about, and this is a rough guess, I'm sure she's available. I'm sure she'd be glad to discuss it with anybody. Spent somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 10 or 11 hours, was able to find, and also, I think her name is Miss Finnis, from down in Finsky, from down in Shelby County. She's the president of the Treasurers Association, searched for this same inaccuracy in the balance. And this is a product of work that was done prior to Treasurer Champ's institution into that office, and was not able to find it, but Ms. Dillow did eventually find it. And because it was flagged not to report, it wasn't showing up on the books as either a negative or a positive. The bills were being approved by the fiscal court the entire time to make payments to the basically the home incarceration coordinator, Tony Kirk, against this account, but Treasurer Madden had been applying them against the account above that. So you were approving the expense against one line item, and that's the product of that approval, 2591.98 in a negative, but he was on his own applying them to the line above that without authority. So that's something that if he reconciled his books for you, that he'd get to explain to you. I told Judge Pace, just to finish up, I told Judge Pace that I think what the statute requires is at some point in time for him to call a special meeting for the fiscal court to discuss how it would like to go about asking Treasurer Madden to reconcile his books.
So bear with me here. I'm trying to figure this out. We had been applying it to the 106 account is what you're saying. And we've been doing it.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We've been doing that for some time, applying it to the 106 account.
Correct.
Okay. And we never received any negative audits from that?
Well, I don't know if the books have been audited since that practice began. I'm not able to say when Treasurer Madden began doing that.
I guess what I'm getting at is what prevented us from going ahead and posting that money as it had been, instead of transferring money into an account without fiscal court authority and making it a negative balance on a quarterly report that went to DLG.
Well, I don't know where you're coming up with some idea that there's a transfer. The 2591.
Okay, let me explain it to
Okay.
you. There's an account that has popped up that was not on our budget. Okay, the 1230 account. It was not on our budget. It is now. There's no funds appropriated because it wasn't on our budget. It now has a negative balance of $2,591.98, which indicates to me that there has been a transfer made by someone into that account. It wasn't by the fiscal court because I went back and looked at my transfer orders. How do we have a transfer into an account that didn't exist without fiscal court approval?
Well, part of your background there is inaccurate in that when you say that there was an account that was not included in your budget. It was included in your budget. It was flagged by Treasurer Madden not to print, so you couldn't see it. So the accurate background would be to say it wasn't printing on the reports that you were receiving from Treasurer Madden, but it was there the whole time.
Okay, so the next question is, how did money end up into it?
There is no money in it. The request here.
$2,591.98.
So do you understand what negative balance means? I mean, that means there's no money there.
That means that a payment has been transferred to it.
No,
No, it means that there has been a bill approved to be paid against it when there was no free balance there to cover the bill. That's what that means.
can I interject something one second? Because I had asked this questions too when I received County Attorney Elkins's letter. What is actually happening here, Travis, is that the payroll report that is generated and comes from Payroll Solutions has those accounts to be credited to 01-501-1230. That's the account that Shay applied it to. Those reports have been coming that way for the same thing. So somebody never changed it when this practice changed. And so what was happening is that he was automatically switching those accounts against what the report said to apply it to.
So my problem with that is Payroll Solutions doesn't get to determine where we post money to. That's our job. Payroll Solutions doesn't get to tell us that we have to send a report to the state with a negative balance in an account.
Well, I get from what you're saying that maybe there's some links missing out of the chain. To begin with, you create a budget. You approve that in June. It takes effect in July. When that happened in 2019, the budget approved included that line item that has a negative balance in it now. And I don't know what month it started in, but the finance people, whoever they are at the time, they create claims against the Treasury. And so the segregation of duties rule requires that the person creating the claim not be the same person that pay it. So the claim is being created by somebody, perhaps Ms. Faulkner, I'm not sure. I wasn't there. This claim is being generated by somebody, being sent to Payroll Solutions for the purpose of creating a payroll report. That claim is being processed by finance people inside Clark County government against that line item. And then after the payroll report comes back and is approved as standing order to be paid, the treasurer posted against the account that it was approved against. In this case, there was actually no money there. I suspect that Treasurer Madden, realizing there was no money there, he would just take the liberty to apply it to that other line item, that 1060 account, but then flagging it so it wouldn't report on paper. So every month when you got the report, you wouldn't see it. Now, I don't know if you're like me, had he allowed it to print, you probably wouldn't have seen it. I don't think I would have caught it, but he had his reasons, whatever they were, for doing that. This product is something that he did, not a product of something that's been done by transfer after him.
So
Now,
and I went back and looked
perhaps,
that we approved, that we sent to DLG as a fiscal court for their approval, did not include the line item of 1230, 5101-1230. That was not an approved line item in the budget the DLG approved of ours, because that wasn't on there. And whether it was told not to print or whatever, I'm not familiar with the software. I couldn't tell you. All I can tell you is it wasn't an approved account. So I don't know how we can pay a bill with that account when it wasn't approved by DLG. And it appears to me, going back and looking, that we've been posting to the 106 account for a long time, and it's been audited, and there hasn't been an issue. So I don't understand why it's all of a sudden an issue now.
Well, I think if you can put the pencil to the paper at the point in time when you authorize, and when I say you, I don't mean you, Master Thompson, but I mean the fiscal court. When the fiscal court ever authorized anybody to make a payment against that account, I suspect you'll not find that. And whether or not this account showed up in some report that was given to DLG, if it was electronically uploaded, it would not show up. And if it was printed, it would not show up because it was flagged. According to Ms. Dillon, I'm not like you, I'm not an expert, because it was flagged not to report. And so when we got to the crossroads of issuing a report to DLG for this quarter, we could either leave it as is and send a report on in with it flagged, in which case the accounting ledger would have had a $2,591.98 imbalance in it, or we could unflag that account, allow that negative balance to show up, and it's a true negative balance. So that's the truth of the matter, and allow it to show up so the books are balanced. I indicated to Ms. Dillo, who was doing the work for us in terms of finding that discrepancy and curing it, not to make any changes to it, except to unflag it so that DLG and the rest of the world and Magistrate Thompson could see it.
Well, my issue is that we have transferred money into this account without fiscal court approval, which is merely exactly what we just terminated the treasurer for.
I'd love for somebody to pull that paper trail and show us that transfer.
If we had transferred money into that account, it wouldn't have a negative balance.
There's a negative balance in it, so there has to be a transfer, because if there wasn't, it would still be zero.
No,
The
there's
balance
a,
is-
there's a debit, but
I think I know, I think I see where it's at. The balance is created by the fact that the payroll check given to Tony Kirk during 2 pay periods was paid from that account, but that account isn't a literal bank account in that, you know, the bank, the traditional bank account where the check was actually cashed.
I agree with that. Neither was the account that the transfer was made that we terminated the treasurer for.
No, I can show you those transfers on paper, and what I'm telling you is you won't be able to find one here. And I think Ms. Dillo would be available to come and
But you're telling me that there's no
anybody working through that.
Go negative. There's an expense posted somewhere that caused that account to go negative. If it's such a
Sure.
math, it would be zero if there wasn't.
Yeah, but you're switching your terms around. You're saying transfer, now you're saying something posted against it. Those are not synonymous terms, and it's difficult to understand.
That's why
you
I'm
know,
asking the question. That's why I'm asking the question. Something was posted to this account.
Correct. 2 paychecks to the home incarceration coordinator as approved by the fiscal court in its standing order on the line item that was
But the
processed through
court didn't
payroll.
approve posting it to that account.
Correct.
That's
That's
correct.
the only account that it approved it being posted against.
No, it's not. We approved it for the 106.
Well, if you can produce that, you'll get my agreement, but I don't think that you can because I've seen it myself. I looked at it with my own 2 eyes. It
Our
was
budget's on
that
file
account.
in the clerk's office that was approved by DLG, and that line item's not in it.
Can I ask a question here? Travis, are you saying that a mistake was made and instead of going to the 1060 account, the funds were withdrawn from the 1230 account? Is that what you're trying to say?
That is correct.
We approved 1060, but they actually came out of 1230. So if that was a mistake or on purpose, I'm not sure, but it would appear to be. I mean, mistakes have been made in the past. The credit has just come from the wrong account.
And I'm concerned.
We can tell when those 2 checks were drawn.
Yeah. And I'm concerned because we've sent a quarterly report in with a negative balance in an account.
Well, it's a truthful report. I mean, that's the key.
right, I think how we got here the first time was we refused to send in a negative balance on an account to an end of month report, which caused someone to generate or conjure up a report that wasn't accurate. That's how we got here to begin with. And the other thing is you can't transfer. We don't transfer debits. We only transfer monies from one account to the other. So we didn't transfer a negative balance. Had we transferred money, the balance wouldn't have been negative.
So did we post an expense?
That we did, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think.
And we posted an expense to an account that we didn't authorize.
That's a good question. I don't think so, but it's a good question.
Well, I can tell you on the payroll report, it has that account number that it was posted to. So, I mean, when the payroll report comes, that's what account it is stating that it to be posted to.
What payroll report?
The payroll report, which is generated through the finance officer, or through the finance department, which goes to the payroll company, and then the payroll company sends a breakdown to the treasurer so they can break everything down in the system the way that it needs to go. So, you know,
That's generated by Payroll Solutions, correct?
from the information that's received from the finance department.
So, I mean, again, Payroll Solutions doesn't get to determine where we.
But you don't understand, it's being generated by the finance department. So the finance department generates that report and then gets sent to Payroll Solutions, and then Payroll Solutions then generates the breakdown.
Daniel, what I understand is that I went back and checked the budget that we approved as a fiscal court. It did not have this line item in it. We did not approve posting an expense to the 123 account.
Travis, I think maybe where the confusion is, Magistrate Thompson, is you look at this report, which is a treasurer's report, typically the same as a budget. If that line item is flagged not to report, it won't show up on the budget that you get or the treasurer's report that you get. I too noticed that was a brand new account on this report I'd never seen before. And the reason is, I assume from listening to the conversation, is it was flagged not to report to us, so we never saw it.
And that may very well be the case. I can't argue that point. It may very well be the case. But my point is that the budget we approved did not include that line item. Therefore, I don't feel like we can post an expense to a line item that we did not approve and the DLG did not approve unless we do it through a transfer, which we haven't done a transfer. We posted an expense. Maybe I need to change my language on that. But there is a transaction in this account that is not authorized by the fiscal court, and I am concerned about that.
That may be the most central point, and not to belabor the point, but the fiscal court approved a standing order to pay its payroll. That's the only way it gets paid to begin with. And included within that approval is the account that has the negative balance in it. The 1060 account was never approved for that purpose. There will never be any record that anybody could generate that would suggest that Treasurer Madden could apply those payments there just because there was money there.
What I would say there is I've never seen the 123 account, and I'm a part of this fiscal court. And I don't know how we can say that that was authorized, that the treasurer is tasked with posting expenses where we tell him to post them.
Here's a good question then. And look, I'm just trying to help us get by the moment. I dare say that nobody, including myself, maybe a member of the fiscal court could say, but I dare say that none of us could quote from the top of our head right now what line item you're authorizing my payment on.
I could not without going back and looking, which is what I've done.
And the standing order, doesn't post those to a bills list every month for you to look at because it's on a standing order.
So William, what I'm understanding from what you're stating is that payroll, that line item would be on the standing order as represented, correct?
That exact account number. I mean, if you're sitting in the treasurer's office paying claims approved by the court, it's approved by account line item, and that's the account line item it was approved on.
So hypothetically, had the standing order been approved with the line item that we had been taking the money out of, this would not have been an issue, but it seems to me that either the line item on all of these treasurer reports or the line item on the standing order was an error. Is that fair to say?
I think I don't have any better ability to guess than other people. I haven't asked the treasurer or the previous finance officer this question. I suspect because the money was appropriated, albeit in a different account, and it was just being handled informally behind the scenes where nobody could see it, nobody took the time to change the line item account on the finance side of it or in the creation of the payroll for payroll solutions, because had that been done, once the approval to pay was generated, it would have come across with a 1060 line item on it. The money was there, it was just being charged against and approved to be paid against the wrong account.
Judge, in the very near future, could you provide me a copy of that standing order that you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
All right, I appreciate that. The last thing I'll say is I'm just concerned by the fact that this has a negative balance in it. And I guess I'm a little bit confused by the information that's been given. Why do we not have a transfer today to correct all the money that's been posted to the 106 account that shouldn't have been?
William?
I'm actually looking at it, and there is a transfer order from line 5101 1060 to 5101 1230. But I'm looking at an order that I received by email, and I can't say for certain it's the same one that you all have, but I suspect it is.
I believe there is one around $3,000, but what I'm asking is if all that has been posted to the 106 account incorrectly, why are we not addressing that today now that we've discovered this error?
Oh, because the 106 account actually had enough money in it the whole time to pay these claims, whether they should have been charged against it or not. So it's had a diminishing balance the entire time. It just never ran out of money.
Okay. That's all I got on that, Judge.
Thank you. Item number 7, consider approval of the minutes from the April 8th, 2020 fiscal court meeting.
So moved.
There, second.
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 Any discussion?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions there, Judge.
Okay,
On the first page, about the fourth paragraph down, it said, motion made by Magistrate Blanton, second by Magistrate Thompson to amend the, aforesaid motion to take 55,000 out of the contingency fund instead of the rainy day fund. Should there not be that all magistrates and judges voted yeah on that amendment? And then the next motion under there, motion made by Magistrate Elkins, second by Magistrate Constantopoulos to amend the aforesaid motion to remove contingent appropriations fund to the commissary employee fund. In the account numbers there that all magistrates, or excuse me, that the 6 magistrates and 1 magistrate voted no and the judge voted yes on that one. And then for the said motion that we made the amendments to, then we all voted unanimously for that. Am I correct in that?
I asked Michelle to check that today. Michelle, would you tell them about our conversation earlier today?
Yes. So I only had you all made that first motion on there, and then you amended it, then you amended it again, and then you went back and voted on both amendments with that first motion. That's how I wrote it down.
Well,
Daniel, it seemed to me we'd have to review the tape to confirm
Yeah.
that unless one of the magistrates is recalling that they voted against it.
because Travis Thompson, do you remember voting no against the jail transfer? That amendment?
I did because the jail didn't want it to come out of that particular fund.
So therefore, we had 2 separate votes on it, but then you voted for the overall amendment once it was presented, correct?
Correct.
Michelle, can we correct the record to reflect that?
That's what I was getting ready to say. I will go back and watch that again and make the corrections to reflect that and show it on the next
Can we just
minute.
hold these minutes till the next meeting then?
Well, we currently have a motion to approve. We would need a motion to table.
That's my motion.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Okay, wait, first of all, who was the motion to approve them?
Me.
Daniel made a motion to approve.
And I think Daniel seconded.
Second one.
I
Daniel
made the motion
seconded.
to table.
Then on the second motion, Magistrate Blanton made the motion to table and Magistrate Thompson made the
I
second.
need to make the motion to approve it.
Magistrate Davis made the original.
Davis.
Okay, Daniel and Dave.
Daniel and Davis, okay. Now who's making the motion to table?
Magistrate Blanton and Magistrate Thompson.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Judge, point of order.
Yes,
Magistrate Blanton, would you amend your motion to postpone it to the next meeting?
Sure, that's
That way
fine.
we don't have to bring it off the table?
Yeah, postpone is fine.
I'm good with that as well.
Okay,
Fair enough.
perfect.
all those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, consider approval of the transfers. We will refer to this as 8A.
Motion to approve.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second. I'll second.
Which of the transfers are you doing?
The original transfer is 8A, that being
Okay.
the,
Okay.
any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Now, the newest transfer, we'll refer to that as 8B. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9A, consider approval of the first bills list. Do I have a motion?
I've got a couple questions.
So moved.
Is there a second? That's a motion by Magistrate Elkins, a second by Magistrate Graham. And now floor is open for discussion. Magistrate Blanton, you have a question?
On page 4 of 5, the fourth line from the top, that number doesn't belong in there for some reason. I don't know. It's the wrong department or it's out of it's out of context. I'm not sure. It should be probably 01-520 was my thinking, as opposed to 02.
You are probably correct on that, Robert.
And then on the last page, the very last item, it says 01-55212. And I'm not really sure, it doesn't belong in the road department, but I'm not sure what account it goes to because I couldn't find an account that it belonged in, but it's not the right place either.
Which one was it on the last page, Robert?
The very bottom one.
The last one under road department.
I'm not sure where it goes, but it doesn't go there.
It says SWC is the department, which would be,
That's Gary Epperson, but I'm not sure. I didn't have time to find an account for that one. Since
no, I'll find one.
the afternoon, so didn't have enough time to search that one down, but it doesn't go there.
Is that SWC, is that the CSEP or is that the,
Solid waste.
Solid waste.
Page 6, Daniel, about 10 lines down.
yeah, I see it.
So the account number is right. It's just in the wrong place on the bills list.
Yeah, that's probably where it goes. It should be 01. It's not in the
Yeah,
it's on the wrong department. I would agree with that.
yeah.
So
I
we
mean,
would like the bills list to be amended to reflect that should be
under solid waste,
under solid waste, yes.
but the account number is correct.
And the other one, we thought that was a typo, correct?
Should be 01 on the second page or on 4 or 5. Robert mentioned there, it's a 108 line item there. You see it. It says it should be 01, correct, Robert?
That's what it appears to me. I did have a chance to look at that. It appears that one should be 01.
Mm-hmm.
And the other may go under landfill. I'm not really sure where it goes.
Okay. We can accept those as friendly amendments, I believe, can't we? Mover,
I can, yes.
okay.
Second.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9B, consider approval of the second bills list.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10, note in minutes, report of the audit for the Clark County Sheriff's settlement for 2018 taxes from the Auditor of Public Accounts. Item number 11, note in minutes, training incentive payment in the amount of $4,312.60 to Joe Graham for the completion of a 40-hour training unit as required by KRS 64.5275 subsection 6. County Attorney Elkins, did you receive the email on this?
I received an email from Jared Taylor today. It was lengthy, and I scanned it. It never dawned on me that he was talking about something that was immediately before the court. I thought he was making reference to applying these payments to the standing order, which we've already discussed, and saying that that wouldn't be a proper treatment of these type claims due to the fact that this training may never be completed or might not be completed before it was actually paid. That's the way I understood the email.
Well, I don't want to give any legal interpretation of it, but can I say, based on that email, perhaps we should postpone this so you can review it?
Well, you know, if the judge executive's office is, well, actually the office of the Department for Local Government is representing that he completed his training, I think it's fit for approval by this court to pay it.
So should we have an approval vote then?
That's what
My
I think,
question,
yes.
William, okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. In prior practice, we haven't been voting on it, and I believe that from the DLG said, apparently that should have changed a couple of years ago, and so that's just a practice that's been done incorrectly that we need to fix.
Motion
Correct.
approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Who was my motions there?
I was, Michelle, I was your first.
Who was second?
I was your second.
You all are delayed there, so I can't see your mouse moving,
It
sorry.
was me, Michelle Greg Elkins.
Hey, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Let me interrupt
discussion?
let me interrupt just for a second here, just to make sure for good housekeeping that, you know, we don't wind up having Joe vote on the issue.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea. Magistrate Graham, will you recuse yourself from this vote?
Yes.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 12, presentation of the Court of Justice's fiscal year 2021 reimbursement to the Clark County Fiscal Court from the Commonwealth of Kentucky regarding the Clark County Courthouse and Clark County Judicial Center. Basically, that is you should have that included in your packet. That represents the amount of money that we are being, I guess, presented with this year for housing the administrative office of the courts, the circuit court, so forth and so on. I wanted to make you all aware that apparently as a result of some legislature in the General Assembly, that's going to be cut from a 0.4% per diem to 0.2%, and that's going to reflect in a budget shortfall somewhere in the ballpark of $40,000. Just wanted to make you all aware of that since we're moving into the budget season, and I'm going to request that the county attorney just review that to see if there's any recourse we might have to obtain those funds, perhaps on a reliance theory. But if not, that's going to be money we won't have. Item number 13, submission of jail budget for fiscal year 2021 under KRS 441.215. Item number 14, consider approval of a request to provide a W-9 to the law office of Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor for potential opioid litigation settlement. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, respond by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 15, consider approval of an order to continue the position and retention of Neil Oliver as temporary part-time deputy coroner. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
One thing, do we want to fill in those blanks? Do you want to say additional 6 months, or what's the pleasure of the court?
I would like to say 6 months at this time before we have the budget approved, if you are all agreeable to that.
I'll include that in my motion, Judge.
I'm good with that as well.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 16, consider approval of an order to promote Eric Hunter to a lieutenant in the Clark County Fire Department. Do I have a motion?
Approved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Who's the
Seeing
first one
none.
there?
Who made the motion? That was Travis, I believe, and Robert.
Right.
Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 17, consider approval of an order to accept the settlement proposed to repair a bridge on Old Boonesboro Road. Do I have a motion?
Motion approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
This has some blanks in it too. Can we get those filled in?
Yeah. You have them, Judge.
$9,500.
Is that what the actual cost was, or is that just what they're offering?
Oh, that's the amount of the settlement. The actual cost will have to be estimated at a future date.
Well, let's just strike out that first sentence. Just put the carrier has offered to pay $9,500 and leave out that part of the sentence with the two blanks in it.
That sounds like a good idea to me. Can we accept that as a friendly amendment?
How about the first blank? When was the car accident?
According to
We need
Mr.
that in there.
I called Mr. Curtis as on February 18th.
That's correct.
Okay,
2020.
2020. So we'll put February 18th, 2020, and the third whereas we'll start with the insurance carrier has offered to pay. Whereas the
That's
insurance.
correct.
Okay.
It's February the 18th, Magistrate Blanton. Is that what you,
That's fine. That's fine.
I thought you said the 10th.
No, he said 18th. Okay, you accept that as a friendly amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 18, consider approval of an order to hire William Shiflett as an equipment operator in the Clark County Road Department. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Does this bring us up to full speed at the road department with the heavy equipment operators?
I believe this has us fully staffed, Robert. Yes.
Who did this replace, Judge?
Oh, I know his name. It's slipping my mind.
Burton?
Yes, Burton. Exactly. He resigned. Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
What's the date there? Did we have the date? So it's got an effective date?
Today's date?
Effective date. No, I believe the effective date, if I'm correct, the effective date was the first day of the last pay period.
The 15th,
Yes.
April 15th.
Well, in that case, I'll be voting no because this is another one of those retroactive hires, which I'm totally against.
I understand, Robert. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Item number 19, consider approval of an order to enter into a memorandum of agreement and acceptance of grant funds from the Kentucky Animal Control Advisory Board for the Clark County Animal Shelter.
Motion to
Do I have
approve.
a motion? Motion by Magistrate Elkins, I believe.
It
Is
was
there
me.
a second? Okay,
Who was the motions?
I think it was me, but take whoever you want.
okay. Travis, I definitely heard Travis, yeah.
Travis and Blanton?
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 20, consider approval of an order to establish separate financial accounts and segregating of funds.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those, oh, go ahead.
What's the purpose of this?
Magistrate Constantopoulos, you brought this to the agenda. What would you like to say about it?
Okay, what this does is establish, according to KRS, they have to be kept in separate funds. And this is setting up a checking account for each one of these funds so they can be properly reconciled.
Was this something Robert Brown has been aware of or will be made aware of, since it involves audit in our budget process?
Well, according to Miss Dillo, Miss Dillo had been trying to get our county to change this way because that's the way it's properly done. And so when we're trying to reconcile the accounts, if a road check deposit is deposited into the general fund under the wrong account number, there's no way to reconcile it because it's not reconciled based on a separate account.
Did I understand you correctly, Daniel? Did you say there's a KRS that requires this?
That is my understanding, that it requires that these like the road fund be kept in a separate fund and not just meeting on paper. I'll refer to the county attorney to ask him if I'm correct on that.
That's correct. The budgeting manual is incorporated by reference through the statute and the Kentucky Administrative Regulation. It is constructed and disseminated by the state local finance officer, in this case, Mr. Brown, and it's required that these funds be kept separate.
Could you give me that statute?
I can give you the, I can't give it to you. I can give it, maybe by the time we get done, I can get
If
it.
you can send it to me, you just email it to me, it's no problem. I don't
Yeah,
have to
I can do that.
And then
I have another question.
just to be clear, we do keep that in a separate fund, correct?
We do
On
not.
paper, not in actual checking account.
Yeah, but if I'm correct, I believe the statute only requires that it be on paper, not actually in a separate.
I think I'd like to add something, Judge. And certainly it's helpful to always know the statutory reference, but I think even absent a statutory reference, I think it would just be best practice to keep it in a separate bank account rather than just trying to segregate it on paper. I mean, these are almost, well, they are entirely state pass-through funds. They're not, these aren't monies that we come up with or that we collect through local tax collection. It's all coming from Frankfurt and the state government. So I think just, again, it's always helpful to know the statutory reference, and it's good to have, but I support this because I think just as a matter of practice, it's helpful to keep those funds segregated. They don't need to be commingled with general funds that are collected to maintain half a dozen or so other departments and local agencies. That money needs to be, separate and in the same sense that a couple of these others need to be segregated, but certainly road funds. So I think it's a good idea. It seems like it would be best practice from an accounting and auditing standpoint, although there may be some question as to how much you can commingle, and maybe that's been the institutional history. I can't imagine that would be the best practice for our county. So
I for one would like to get an opinion from Robert Brown. And the other thing is, we've always talked about our software, things that it can and can't do, and I'd like to make sure that this is compatible with that, and get a thought from Robert Brown, since he has to review it anyway.
Well, this was suggested by the lady who has the software, so we're confident that the software will work with it.
Well, I'd still like to get an opinion from Robert Brown if it's necessary or just advisable practices or whatever.
Is this something that's done across the state by different counties? I mean, is it common practice?
According to Ms. Dillo, that's the way that it is supposed to be done.
Judge, I would like one concern that I had was I know that we're only insured up to a certain amount with the bank, FDIC, and I know traditional secures us on our big account further. So I'd like the assurance that each account that we do open, if this is done, will be insured to the level that it needs to be, because several of those accounts will have far more than $250,000 in it.
Well, but the account, the one account that with traditional bank has 4.9 million in it.
Yeah, and traditional secures that for us on top of the 250.
I understand that, but I think that any account that they open, it ought to be made sure that it's secured.
That may be
Yeah,
that bank. I don't know where
I
you're
think we all agree on that, Travis.
I just want to make sure we got that done.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm going to vote no because I still want an opinion from Robert Brown, but I think it's a good idea. We probably need to do it, but I'd just like to have a second advice look at this before we follow through with it.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. The magistrate comments, Magistrate Elkins.
Judge, I have one comment. I would like to receive, and we do so sporadically, but there is it's the report we get from the Clark County Detention Center. It is a very good report. We get it from time to time, but I'd like to get it every month. It's the report that tells us the inmates, it's a condition report, I guess you would say, that we get from the jail. It gives us the average daily county inmates, state inmates, and out of county inmates. If we could get those for the last year, caught up to now, the last fiscal year, that is July to now, I would certainly appreciate it, and get them going forward as well would be great.
So you want the average, well, basically you want the number of inmates per day on average for each month, and you want it broken down by county, state.
That's correct. It's a report that the jailer does for us from time to
Mhm.
time, or the deputy jailer. I'm not sure which one, but it's a very helpful report for me anyway. And if I could get that looking backwards on this fiscal year, and then for every month looking forward as well, would be fantastic. Thank you, Judge. That's all I have.
I'll see if he can provide that.
Thank you.
Magistrate Graham,
No comments.
Magistrate Constantopoulos.
Just one thing, I know that, just to mention it, because I'm sure there's a lot of people watching it, that several people on social media have been trying to raise money, I guess, for the high school seniors, because of the potential of them not being able to have a graduation. So they're wanting to honor them during this pandemic. And just to make everybody aware, there is a fund that's going around online on social media, but they're also taking in-person deposits, I guess, through the drive-through at Kentucky Bank. And that is under the class of 2020 pandemic fund, I think is the name of that account. So I would just like to encourage everybody to drop a little deposit off for them, so they can make sure and be honored. And that's it.
Thank you. Magistrate Blanton.
I got a couple things, Judge. First, we had a complaint a couple months back on Cook Avenue, and at one of our meetings, the county attorney said the detective is looking at it. Can we get an update on that?
What address are we talking about?
I don't recall the exact address, but it was on Cook Avenue. I think there was 2 or 3 properties over there. If you can just get me a report from the detective and put it in my box or email it to me, that would be helpful.
Okay. I
I know
don't,
Judge Pace is aware of it because he and I had the specific addresses. I don't have in front of me right now.
Yeah, I believe Detective Bradley received that a few weeks ago.
my memory, and I'm not saying that that did not happen. Most of the activity that I'm aware of on Cook Avenue is centered around whether or not we have the ability to condemn and demolish some properties down on the far end of Cook Avenue. Maybe those are the same properties, but without an address.
Those are the ones.
The city part, it was closest to the city. It was just adjacent to this corporate limits, just where it was at. And there may have been a couple of others. I think there was 2 or 3 properties involved. But
I'll send you an email on that with that information.
if you'll just get that to me. Second, I just wanted to remind everyone about the census. And I did see where there was one county, and it escapes me who it was. They were relieving some fee if you brought in proof that you had filled out your census. It was a minor fee, but at least it was some incentive for people to complete their census. So anything we can do to get more participation in our census reporting, I would appreciate that. Then there was I've had a couple of individuals ask me about green lights on the courthouse. And my first response was it would be unlikely and probably unsafe just to get on top of the courthouse roof and the building across Main Street just to change the lights to green. However, we do have a couple of options if the court would feel so inclined to put some green lights on the courthouse. We do have a spotlight on the street light out front that's not currently operating. It needs to be fixed. You know, when we get that operating, we could put a green filter or green lens on that. That's one option. Second option would be to get some of the residential green spotlights and plug them in front with a timer on them. We've got 2 porch lights at the front door. We could just simply put green bulbs in them and see that they remain on during the dark hours. So that's 3 options. I personally think we ought to be participating in that, since it seems to be taking the state with that particular movement, and put some sort of
Robert?
green light on the courthouse.
Not to interrupt you, but actually, if weather is permitting, that's we've already arranged with the city to use their ladder truck to adjust the lights tomorrow.
Okay. Then I have one other item. I'd still just don't want it to slide through the cracks. I'd still like to see that we get some maintenance on the outside the courthouse, and hopefully we can finalize some sort of purchase of these tax credits that we have from the bell tower renovation and use those funds to do that. And while I'm speaking of maintenance, when we do the budget this year, I would like for us to include that $27,000 to switch over to LED lights, because the payback would be, I think it was like 3 years to pay that back. And that seems to me that would be a move that we should try to accomplish. It's a cost saving in the long run. That's all I've
Okay.
got.
Thank you. Magistrate Thompson?
Question for you, Judge. What's the budget schedule? I've only seen the jail budget and the animal shelter budget. I've not seen anything else. So just.
Yeah. I'm going to actually, this was something I was planning on emailing you folks about. I don't think it is I think we should have a budget meeting where no action is taken, simply because, for instance, the county coroner has requested that himself and all 3 of his deputies have an opportunity to speak. And I'm afraid that if we end up in a Zoom meeting like this with, 10 people speaking, we might very well lose contact with 1 or 2, and that could throw us into some open meeting issues. So I would like to schedule some actual budget meetings, probably 1, which we can discuss. So you should be receiving an email on that to respond to. I will have a budget prepared for you all to review by the statutory deadline, but hopefully we can have a discussion as well.
Okay, I would be a proponent of the budget meeting for sure. Next thing, Magistrate Elkins is on the jail reports. One was delivered yesterday to the deputy judge, a monthly report. I'm sure that was after our package went out, obviously, but I think there is one in the office over there. And I've received a number of them over the last 6 weeks. They were going out daily, and then I think they went out weekly for a while. If you don't have them, I'd be happy to forward them to you. And I just want to thank everybody for the way the county has handled the public health crisis that we're in. I think we've done a very good job. I think that the constituents have done a good job following guidelines, and I'm proud of our county, and I just want to throw that in there. And last but not least, I was going to mention the fund for the seniors that Daniel brought up. Appreciate you bringing that up, Daniel, and that is the correct name of the account. And one of the ladies that's organizing it, Ms. Jeannie Gwynn, sent me a text message just a second ago and said to thank the court for mentioning it tonight at the meeting, and just want to pass that on.
Judge,
Thank you.
just to clarify the report, Magistrate Thompson, I've been getting the emails as well that have them in it, but I'd like to have them on a monthly basis, not a daily or a weekly. That way I'm comparing apples to apples. And the last 2 emails that had the batch reports in them, neither of them had the condition report attached with them. It had all the finances and all that, which we asked for, but just missed the condition report.
Gotcha.
Thank you, though.
Okay. Magistrate Davis?
Thanks, Judge. And I sent an email out to everyone last evening or yesterday about 5:30 with something that I've been discussing with the County Attorney Elkins. And something that's obviously on everybody's mind, which is the COVID-19 and the ensuing shutdowns as ordered by Governor Bashir. I know that I'm hearing a lot and have heard a lot in the last few weeks, particularly about the economic impact, financial impact on a lot of our local business owners, as well as working people that don't necessarily own a business, but obviously work for somebody who does in the private sector. So I think I agree with a couple of the other statements made a few minutes ago. I think Clark County's done an outstanding job, both from a public health standpoint, just community standpoint, rallying around our businesses. But nevertheless, it's caused a lot of negative impact on businesses, employers. So in light of some of the things that Governor Bashir has brought up and asked for in the last last week or so, and I noticed he's allowed some openings as of Monday, some health facilities like chiropractors and dental offices, physical therapists. I discussed with the county attorney earlier this week about putting together a resolution, and I apologize for not getting it to everybody earlier so we could get it on the agenda. But as I noted last night to everybody, I wanted to bring it up, discuss it tonight. The magistrate comments about passing a resolution that would ask the governor to, first of all, recognize the progress we've made. I think we've had 19 confirmed cases, and the number we had as of a couple of days ago was 18 had recovered, and one was still active. And I think the health department has retracted that and revised it to 19 cases with at least 14 recoveries and 5 that they consider active. But fortunately, we've had no fatalities. I'm not aware of anybody being being intubated because of it. So we're very fortunate. I think we're in a very different position than a lot of other so-called hotspots, such as Jefferson County and some of the larger northern Kentucky counties, some other counties that have been hit hard. Some counties haven't had even as many cases as we have. So, and with the resolution, what we're asking for, what we would be asking for, is the governor to recognize that we've hit the benchmarks and to consider amending his order to allow Clark County to enter what the administration has called the first stage of reopenings. And I think that's the criteria set forth by the White House. And although I think governor has discussed it too. And as you hopefully have had a chance to look at it since late yesterday afternoon. The only change, alteration that I made, and I discussed it with the county attorney late yesterday, just in full disclosure, the specific types of employers under the first stage in large venues include sit-down dining, movie theaters, sporting venues, places of worship that can operate under strict physical distancing protocols. They had eliminated or not included bars in that. I did put that back. I did include that in there. So it says sit-down dining, bars, movie theaters, sporting venues. The reason I did that is I felt like, I know several of our restaurants also have a sit-down bar, some larger than others. It was my personal opinion that I think if you're going to open up one, it's going to be difficult to not open up another. They're both in the hospitality industry, and with certain precautions and regulations, I think both could engage in proper amount of distancing and safety protocols. But I wanted to mention that there is mention in the resolution of the high school graduation. And I know I've gotten I've seen a lot of comments on social media. I know parents and seniors are devastated. Of course, I understand the reason why it's not going to happen, certainly in May. One reason why I thought it was good to have that in there, for the governor's review. This is not a act of rebellion against governor's state of emergency order, but rather asking him to consider the graduation. And again, if a graduation were to happen, first of all, the school board, it wouldn't be our authority anyway to organize it, but really just asking the governor to consider that, and the fact that we are a county that has dealt, I think, very successfully with COVID-19 crisis and the economic outcomes that have occurred because of it. Again, the graduation, if it did happen at all, I can only expect it would be much later in the summer, well after when it would normally happen in late May. And again, it would be something that the governor would have to review and would potentially give us some dispensation to have. I expect that, I know a lot of people have kids graduating this year, and I suspect that some would love to have something, even if it were later in the summer. When I sent this out last night, I anticipated we'd have a lot of discussion about it. And just so everybody knows, first of all, this isn't any kind of revolt on my part against the governor. I take this very seriously. I have close family members that, have health issues and pre-existing conditions, as well as age that would make them susceptible to COVID. So I do take it seriously, but I also know we have people who are in very dire economic straits because of this. I'm also concerned because I've read some reports that Kentucky's unemployment fund, not counting the federal stimulus money that came to bolster that, but our own fund, may in the weeks to come be running out of money. So short of a federal bailout, we have a lot of people who could really face some real distress. And I understand, we can have as much conversation as the court wants to entertain on this. And I'm certainly open to any kind of suggestions and input that you all as my fellow court members have. But I just want to get the conversation started and start moving hopefully toward having some at least very restricted, reopenings of some of local businesses. So I would, if it's appropriate to make the motion that the resolution is adopted, Judge, I would make that motion at this time.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Magistrate Davis, in reading through your proposal, I want to commend you and the county attorney on writing this up. I think it's a very good suggestion and to the governor. Just like they've said multiple times, the president has it, you can't treat New York, can't treat Kentucky or Tennessee or another state to New York, where it's kind of the epicenter. And I think this is a good recommendation that for the governor to consider, because what we're doing is we're saying take it a step farther. Let's not just look at the states. Let's look at the counties within the state. I know we can look on the COVID map, which I kind of keep up with just to kind of see. And, Jefferson's really the biggest hotspot with 1,008 cases, and it seems to be going up. And a lot of your dense populated areas seem to be those. And fortunately, the people of Clark County have sacrificed a lot. They've done exactly what they've been told to do. And, we've had great success here with the limited number of cases. So I think that's really good. So I think it would be a good recommendation to the governor just to say, hey, look, we've met all the qualifications for that first phase in. These are the phase ins that's been provided by the president and has been adopted by I think by the governor as well as kind of their phase in process. If you meet these benchmark targets, then you can begin phasing in. And so with us being a county that meets those benchmarks, I think it would be really good for him to consider. He may say no, but I think it's our duty to look out for our community as well, and a lot of these business owners, because when I break it down, I understand why the governor's done what he's done and why the president's done what they've done. I think they've done a good job and with the initial threat of the pandemic. But when I start really looking it down, I don't see an additional risk if we have other small businesses opening up that are practicing the CDC restrictions on social distancing. I don't see that I'm at a greater risk if I walk into a business, a small business there in downtown Winchester, and walk in and purchase something and come out versus going to one of the big box stores. I don't think that I'm exposed more or less going to either of those. And so I know our business owners are really struggling. As a business owner, I've seen it, and I'm in the medical industry. The medical industry where a lot of these doctors have shut down, it's playing a toll on everybody. And really, I hope that we can start safely opening our economy and getting people back to work, and in a safe manner that is not only good for the economy, but is safe as well. And I think this is a good idea to be sent to the governor. And actually, I was reading an article. Last thing is I was reading an article today where I think it was the mayor of Somerset. They actually submitted a list of how they want to start the initial opening of business in their community. And from the article I read, they basically wrote a whole pamphlet on how they were going to do everything. And they were asking for the governor for his blessing as well, or at least a seat to the table to discuss those options. So I think this is a really good resolution, and I commend you and your hard work, and also the county attorney for putting that together. Thank you.
Magistrate Davis, if you don't mind, I have several what I think you will take as friendly amendments to make.
Sure. Yes, sir.
It's somewhat lengthy, so bear with me.
Judge,
Yeah.
point of order for a second. I don't
Sure.
believe that we can take action because we've already adopted the agenda. So I don't believe that we can take action on this anyway.
County Attorney Elkins?
I think because no agenda is required, you could take action on it.
We've already adopted the agenda and this item is not on there.
As I've said, because no agenda is required by law at a regularly scheduled meeting, you're able to conduct business on this point. So it's up for you to decide whether or not you want to. But I'm telling you that I think you can.
Go ahead, Judge. I have some comments when you're ready, but you go first. I just wanted to straighten that out.
Okay. So in the opening stanza, the word permitting is misspelled or typoed. I'd like that corrected. I'd like the end of it to read, Clark County to enter into the first stage of reopening, and perhaps end with a period there because the business and high school graduation is amply covered in the body of the text. On page 2, after the third whereas, I just want to make sure we have the numbers correct as we can. I would like that to read, whereas there have been 19 confirmed cases of COVID-19 occurring in Clark County, comma, with at least 15 recoveries thus far and no deaths, semicolon, and with the grace of hindsight. That's my correction there. In the next whereas, at the end of that sentence, the White House provided guidance on the first stage of reopening could, and insert the word look like. Next page, after specific types of employers, after the last, I guess, colon or dot, I would like an and a comma before the whereas. Next page, first whereas, to walk in a graduation ceremony recognizing a life of work and educational excellence if the local school board determines it can be done safely while practicing safe distancing guidelines. I think that goes to what you mentioned earlier, Magistrate Davis. The next, now therefore, 7 benchmark criteria for Kentucky, comma, should be considered on a county by county basis, comma, and Clark County, comma, having met these criteria, comma, with an appropriate plan. And then later on in that particular paragraph, before the word providing, I'd like to include conditionally, because it is going to be conditional upon the approval of the school board. Then the longest of all of my additions here at the end, after reopening, comma, and be it further resolved that if Governor Beshear determines that Clark County has not met the benchmark criteria for stage 1 of reopening, comma, the fiscal court of Clark County respectfully requests guidance as to whether this may be achieved on a county by county basis, comma, and if so, what individual steps can be taken to expedite stage 1 reopening in respect to Clark County, period. I know that was lengthy. I don't think it substantively changed anything. If you'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
I will, Judge. I have no problem with those.
Judge,
Request.
one question on your amendment there on the last page.
Yep.
After reopening, comma, can we put effective May 1st, 2020, comma, and then your statement? So that way we're saying that we're requesting to amend that we would start this on May 1st.
I'll add that to my friendly amendment if it is welcomed by Magistrate Davis.
That'd be fine, Judge. I'm no problem with that.
That would give a little more time. Hopefully we can have almost everyone recovered by May 1st. Hopefully.
And it provides yet another week. So.
Okay. Magistrate Thompson, you had discussion.
I do. I just want to say, first of all, have we reached out to the health department in regards to this, and what was their take on it?
I tried to reach out earlier to the health department. I was unable, I mean, they're busy. They were unable to, and I did send the health administrator or the director an email in regards to it.
So we don't have their blessing on this.
No, because I mean, they follow, the health department follows the directives of the governor, and we're requesting the governor to allow us to do this.
And I would expect that it would much if not a great amount of the decision making, obviously ultimately it all falls to the governor. But as far as the health departments go, I expect the Kentucky Department of Health will be I have no doubt will be a big part of all of the stages of the reopening statewide. So I anticipate any applications made to the state or to the governor's office would be vetted by the State Department of Health. And my understanding is they're tracking those numbers in every county.
Did we school board in regards to the graduation line?
Magistrate Davis.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Did we reach out to the school board in regards to the graduation language?
I did not, and had really, frankly, just no intention on it, because ultimately, as Judge noted, and I did earlier, that's going to ultimately be the decision of the school board. We just like the governor to consider it. Should the school board in a month or two, or whatever the case may be, want to do it, and if the virus is tremendously better 30 days from now, 60 days from now, we all hope it is, then that would have already been brought to the governor's attention. But obviously we don't have any authority on that. So, I base that on the amount of distress among the parents that I know, high school seniors, and I don't have, neither of my kids are that age, but I can understand, having been that age once, how distressing it would be. So, ultimately though, yeah, that would be up to the superintendent and his board to make that decision.
Okay, thank you. So my comments would be this. I did reach out to the health department and I did make contact with them, and I did reach out to the school board and make contact with them. The school board is currently planning a virtual graduation. They're not planning an in-person graduation. Those plans were put into effect tonight by the school board. So that's what's going to happen there. And furthermore, Clark County is not anywhere close to meeting the benchmarks that were provided by the federal government. And until we meet those benchmarks, I think we're a little premature in asking that we reopen. I'm a small business owner. I've been affected by this in a number of ways. I have family members that are high risk, both due to age and due to underlying health issues. And I was taught to love my neighbor, and I can't imagine leaving this up to anyone other than the public health experts. And I'm not one of them. I'm not going to proclaim to be, but I will seek their guidance. And they tell me that we don't meet the benchmarks yet, and that when we do, it's very likely that we will reopen, even without this resolution. So that's my comments, and I will not be supporting the resolution.
Further discussion?
Magistrate Thompson, in regards to that, I just want to be clear that we're not asking to go against the health professionals. All we're asking for them is giving them a suggestion and an idea to look at this epidemic and how it affects on a county by county basis versus looking as the whole state at whole. Because I mean, the sheer numbers is what needs to happen in Jefferson, where they've got a hotspot and it's a complete pandemic, may not be the same restrictions or limitations that we need to have here in Clark County. So we're not saying here we're going to make the decision for you. We're asking them to look at this and look at it as a county by county basis. And, you know, they may think that's a great idea and they may start implementing that all across the state. But ultimately, I think it's good to get our suggestions and ideas in front of them, because that's what the governor asked for. He asked for our responses and asked for our ideas and thoughts, and that's exactly what we're doing.
I would just point out that I think it would have been a professional courtesy to reach out to those two entities and get their opinion on this and at least get their blessing. I would also point out that our county doesn't have walls, and if we open up, who's to say that someone from Jefferson County is not going to come here and dine in one of our restaurants and open this thing back up again? And my greatest fear in this, and I'm glad I'm not the one that has to make the decision, because it's not a decision that I want to make. But my greatest fear is that we open up too soon and we have to shut back down again. And while I don't want to see us shut down any longer than we have to be, a second shutdown would be absolutely devastating. I have heard from the governor that when the time is right, that they will look at it on a county by county basis, just like the federal government's looking at it on a state by state basis. So I think that's already in the works, regardless of our resolution. I think it's important that we be supportive of the state, and I think it's important that we follow the guidelines. And I just think it's of utmost importance that we support our local health department.
No, and that's good. Since you've had a direct communication with the governor and they're considering it by county, then this is just a way to say, hey, we support you doing it on a county by county basis.
I had a couple
Any
comments.
further discussion? Go
I got a
ahead,
couple comments.
Robert.
First, I want to thank Chris for providing this for us last night. I do appreciate that. And I do realize that this is a crisis, not only medically, but also economically. And we need to do whatever we can to support all those individuals who have contracted the disease and those who are suffering economically. I would note that I have read the benchmarks. I'm familiar with them, and I don't think we have met any of those. And I know Chris probably heard the governor or not, because he mentioned that Monday there will be some medical facilities opening up. And if you saw that tonight, he also said that he didn't think at this point in time that a county by county basis was reasonable. I think what we would do if we approved this tonight would be to give some sort of false hope that, yeah, we're going to open things up in Clark County. And again, a county is just too small. We're too mobile. I think it would cause more problems than it would cause good. It's good that Chris brought this forward, but I just for one reason, and granted that Magistrate Thompson has contacted the health department and the school board, and I don't think we do have that support right now, but But again, I don't think we have met those benchmarks. So, and I do realize that a resolution holds no legal binding power. It's only an opinion. I think this still needs a lot of work before we can approve it. There's just too much work to be done. We're not an island to ourselves, and I'm not going to support it either.
One question, Magistrate Thompson, did you speak directly to the health director?
Did.
And she said she was absolutely opposed to this?
She did not say that. She said that we do not currently meet the benchmarks. That was my question to her.
Okay, but I just want to be clarified. She didn't say.
I don't know that
They didn't make an official statement on that.
I don't know that she's seen the resolution. That's why I asked if it was provided to her. I just simply asked her if the benchmarks had been met in the Clark County, as it indicates in the resolution, and they have indeed not. And I'm certainly in agreement with that. I already knew that before I asked her, but I wanted an official opinion.
A couple of things I'll add, Judge, if I can.
Sure.
I won't belabor it too much, but I think when I look at the benchmarks, I mean, I think we've made tremendous strides. You know, from what I'm hearing, the hospital has done an outstanding job. Nursing home, Rosemary Seabrook's place, has done an outstanding job. We have now availability of more testing. As a matter of fact, I just got an email a few days ago that our urgent treatment on the bypass, First Care, now has COVID-19 testing available. So that's a tremendous, I think equipment is becoming more available now that production has been ramped up. I think we will be more, there will no doubt at some point from, you know, what the public health experts like Dr. Fauci and others have said, there will be at some point another spike. It may not be until the fall. You know, that tends to be my understanding how the flu usually works, a couple of spikes a year. So if Corona follows that, you could have a spike in the fall. Well, you know, are we going to contemplate being shut down for another 6 months? And I would just add that, and I don't want to be too much of a doomsdayer. I've lived my life being pretty positive, but I'm fearful that we will have more than a few businesses that are closed now, and that if they're closed very much longer, they will not reopen. So let me say, first of all, that finally, that the first stage, and my understanding, my interpretation of it, it seems pretty clear. You know, it's going to be a very, if it happens, and when it'll happen at some point for all of us, all counties, it will be a very, I think, restricted, very much a soft reopening. You're going to have a lot of social distancing. You're going to have capacity of people cut maybe severely, you know, so instead of a business being able to accommodate 50 or 60 people, maybe they accommodate half that many. I'm not sure what this will look like. But again, you know, I think it seems to me, looking at the numbers, that our numbers have not spiked. You know, we're still below 20, and almost all of them have recovered. I think there's 4 or 5 that are in question. I'm not sure if any of them are hospitalized. I haven't heard that, and I followed the health department updates every week. So, you know, I know there is always some risk in anything we do, and I respect the governor and his office, but I think other people are entitled to opinions too. And sometimes the facts are open to interpretation, and you know, you see different viewpoints. If you watch enough of these news shows every night, you see 4, 5, or 6 different viewpoints as to when we're going to break the curve and when we're going to get out of this and when antiviral meds will be available. And I think they're making strides in those things. But I just would like to present the governor something to consider. And I particularly like, Judge, your addition to that, which is if it is denied, and it may very well be, you know, probably more than likely it will be, asking for feedback on, well, where do we go from here? Where does a county like Clark need to go? Because we're not in the same position as Jefferson County or Kenton County or McCracken County. You know, we shouldn't probably be held to the same standard as those counties, because we haven't faced the crisis that they have. So I'll leave it at that. I appreciate everybody's input and just the court considering it. And I know everybody here cares about the community and the turmoil that it's caused. So again, thank you to everybody that.
Judge, if I might add
Go ahead.
one thing, or at least my thoughts on this. I don't think that any of the magistrates in this resolution advocating for a complete reopening of the economy at this time. It is merely a resolution. It's asking the governor to examine a few things and provide us feedback. I think that we're confusing what we're doing here just a little bit. Again, we're not advocating for a complete reopening. We're only looking to begin the process of reopening our economy. And I do understand that certain small businesses are going to survive just fine. Some of us are doing just fine. But there are others, as Magistrate Davis just said, that aren't going to survive. Each day, I'm not talking about weeks, I'm talking about each day that particular certain businesses go without revenues, they're dying each and every day. Tomorrow, there'll be more dead than they were today. The next day, more so than that. Now, I get it that we're having to make a hard decision in balancing our economy against people's lives. You can't protect everybody from everything to the extent that you never get in a car so you don't die in a car wreck. But you also don't want to go driving 100 miles down the road. If you do wreck, you won't survive it. So, I mean, yeah, there has to be a balance there. We can't just continue to stay indoors and hide. Eventually, we've got to begin the process of reopening our economy. The governor is a smart fellow. He's a very intelligent individual. He was elected governor of our state. He understands that Kentucky can't be treated like Texas and California and New York. The same as Clark County can't be treated the same as Elliott County or Jefferson County. I mean, they're differences. We got to look at them as differences. And I think that's kind of what we're asking him to do is to look at us different than Jefferson County. And I think he's smart enough to see that and understand what we're asking. I don't think that we're asking him to do anything that he probably hasn't already thought of. So, I don't think there's anything wrong with asking that. We're not bucking the governor. We're not bucking the system. We're not saying, we don't even have the authority to go out and open businesses. I don't think we were elected to ask these particular agencies to give us permission to do this. I think we were elected to lead, to get out in front, to ask these agencies to examine what we're doing. And that's what we're doing with the governor's office. So I will be supporting this resolution. Thank you.
Any further comment? Okay. Well, for my part, obviously I had all those lengthy changes, so I considered this in depth. And I do think it's important that if we're going to send a resolution to the governor, that, we do make the point that I agree, we should probably be considered different than Elliott County, and we should be considered differently than Jefferson County. And if the governor doesn't think it's time for us to reach those phase 1 benchmarks, I would love some feedback as to why not and what we can do better. So I don't see what it hurts to ask. And I look forward to the feedback, so I will be supporting it. Seeing no further discussion, I guess we'll do a roll call vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, no, roll call vote, roll call vote.
Sorry, Judge.
Respond by saying aye when she calls your name.
Magistrate Thompson,
No.
Constantopoulos,
Yes.
Blanton,
No.
Graham,
Yes.
Elkins,
Yes.
Davis,
Aye.
Judge,
Yes.
5-2. Motion carries.
Thank you. We have nothing left on the agenda. I don't have any comments in addition to what you folks already said in magistrate comments. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
Judge, I don't think you asked Magistrate Elkin if he had any comments.
Yeah, he was first one.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Robert, but I was, yeah.
You're usually last.
I was just quick.
We have a motion to adjourn from Daniel. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Y'all have a good night.
Thanks. Good
Good
night, all.
night, guys.
Be
Thank
safe.
you.